I love an excuse to play with my Olo markers. Hey everybody, it's Christina from Creations with Christina. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you are having a fabulous day. Today we're going to be making a card using the Spellbinders February 2023 Stamp and Die of the Month. I love an excuse to play with my Olo markers. I've been having so much fun with those, and we are going to be making a card using the Olo markers and the Stamp and Die set for the month. So let's jump into today's video. And we're going to jump in by stamping out our image from the Stamp and Die set. I'm using Express It cardstock since I will be using some alcohol markers to color in our image. I'm going to use the adorable bunny rabbit that's sticking out of the pocket. I'm just adding that to my mini Misty and stamping that out using Memento Tuxedo black ink. I'm using this ink because it coordinates or works well with the alcohol markers. And I am going to be using the, well, first of all, I'm going to use the Ohuhu marker for my light gray. I have not received my light gray colors in my Olo markers yet. And I'm just using that. I picked the lightest color I could find, just doing an outline of the bunny to give that illusion that it is a white bunny rabbit. I'm going to now go into my Olo markers, and we're just going to go ahead and turn on some music and enjoy some music while I color in the rest of my bunny. Once I got all my coloring done, I did go ahead and also stamp out a couple of the smaller flowers that were included in that stamp set, but I ended up not using them in the end. I'm going to stamp my sentiment onto some black cardstock using my Versamark ink because we're going to be using some embossing powder. And as usual, I almost forgot to use my anti-static so that our embossing powder only sticks to our stamped image rather than to our cardstock. So once I have that stamped out, I'm going to be using some white embossing powder. I'm using Hero Arts ultra thin white embossing powder. I always like to include 2 coats of my embossing powder before I heat set it. I'm just going to go ahead and melt my embossing powder. I'm not convinced if I totally like this heat gun. I'm going to give it some more testing. Once I have that done, I am going to then go ahead and do some die cutting. I like to use the yellow tape, which is the best ever tape by Spellbinders, and I love that it's not super tacky, but it holds your dies into place. I will say that it's better to use more tape than not because I ended up not die cutting my bunny rabbit in the pocket very straight and ended up being kind of crooked. To fix that, I am going to die cut that pocket, the bunny rabbit in the pocket, the outline die one more time, so that I can create a shadow later on, and it kind of hides the fact that I wasn't very straight with die cutting. I pulled out my paper trimmer so I can cut a panel down that is about a ½ inch smaller than an A2 size card. So I'm cutting this down at 3.5 by 5, And I'm going to use the Spellbinders embossing folder of the month. It's the Hydrangea Blooms, which is an absolutely gorgeous embossed folder. I'm going to run that through my Platinum 6 Spellbinders with my universal plates, and we'll just go ahead and emboss this. And I really love the embossed image on this. It is gorgeous. I'm going to set this panel aside, and I'm also pulling in some orange cardstock. I cut this down to be 1/4 inch smaller than an A2 size card, so it measures 4 by 5.5, or 5 1/4 rather, and that's going to get mounted onto an A2 size card. So this is where I am hiding the fact that I did not do a very good job at die cutting, and I'm adding some liquid adhesive to the back of the bunny so that I can add that to the black cardstock that I cut out, and it kind of hides the fact that I wasn't very good with die cutting. I created just a little shadow from the side, and then I'm also adding my sentiment to that as well. But first I'm going to go ahead and add some foam adhesive to the back of my embossed panel, and I'm going to adhere that down to my orange cardstock, which I already did go ahead and mount to my card base. And then we're going to go ahead and add the bunny rabbit. I like to use a super thin foam adhesive for when I'm layering multiple layers onto a card so that it doesn't become too bulky. I added some liquid adhesive to the foam just in case if I needed to wiggle that around. And then on my sentiment, I added a piece of foam tape to one side, and then I'm adding liquid to the other so I can kind of set that off of the bunny rabbit, which is popped up, and it lays a little bit more even. And of course, no card is complete unless we add some gems. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of gems to the front of my card. I am just using my liquid adhesive. This is the Barely Art glue, which is my all-time favorite glue, and adhering those down to my front of my card. I'm going to have a link to all the supplies used down below in the description of this video. If you liked my video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Thanks for watching.